Hey YouTubers, just want to give a 1 year review of my Hyundai Azera Limited. It's a 2013. I purchased August of 2015. It's going to be kind of one of my first uploads. Kind of tell the issues I've had with the car and overall how I've liked the car. Last few years I've owned mainly Hondas and Lexus vehicles. Thrown in the mix there, I had one Infinity, so was debating on getting a new Lexus or a new Infinity, and couldn't really get any dealers to work any deals with me, and came across this one certified used. Paid $24 for it with 40,000 miles on it. Belonged to an older couple, and right off the bat, after owning it about a month or so, I started developing a misfire issue, only during startup. First 30-45 seconds, it would have a misfire. But to the dealer, they looked at it, they couldn't find anything wrong. They went ahead and did the fuel treatment and the injector cleaners and all that. Seemed to work temporarily. I don't know if it really has something to do with the GDI engines burning dirty or not. Somewhat, I don't believe it with this vehicle. But it was probably 2 or 3 months after that. It would have been probably November. Started noticing that on startup, timing chain was getting a little noisy for the first 15 seconds or so until I got oil pressure built up. So drove it out to the dealer when I first noticed it, and they says, well, it's so close to your oil change, let's go ahead and do an oil change. We'll add a oil additive to it, which I'm not a bit firm believer of, but they went ahead and did that. They said give it 500 miles, bring it back. Brought it back to them, the noise was still there. They went ahead and they changed the oil again at roughly 570 miles. And they did another oil treatment again, so they call it an oil treatment. But I was still having a misfire, and I was still having issues with the timing chain. Brought it up to the dealer several times, and basically they just wanted to keep adding oil additive. And it was sometime in December, the front end started developing a clunking noise, which I knew it was either struts or ball joints or sway bar links or the sway bar bushings. They ended up putting all new sway bar and sway bar links on, and they checked the condition again of everything, and they confirmed that timing chain was making a little noise, but just keep doing my intervals with my oil changes and they'll keep an eye on it. So let's fast forward a little bit. We'll go into roughly February of 2016. I was still having issues, but the timing chain noise was lasting 30, 40, 50 seconds now at startup. Went ahead and took it in, had an oil change done, had the service done. They said, well, we'll add another oil additive, and I finally pulled a service manager off the side, and I said that this was not acceptable and that wanted something done about this, and that this was just not going to keep working for a car with only, at this point had 49,000 miles on it, and that this just was not acceptable for a car that's still under warranty and that is so new. And he agreed with me, and he said that they would look into it. So basically got my oil change and sent me on my way. So the middle of April, I was due for my next oil change, and I've been experiencing, the timing chain noise a lot longer than I should, and it was getting a lot louder. So took it in, I explained to this service guy. The other guy was on vacation, and he started the vehicle up and immediately shut it off, and he goes, do not drive it. Straight out of his mouth, do not drive it. That is not right. So they pulled over in the bay, they changed the oil, They added an oil additive. They could not get it to stop making the noise. He said, and I had to explain to him how long this has been going on. He went and said something to the service manager, and he informed him of the condition and everything that was going on with the vehicle. So they went ahead and made an appointment for the following week, which would have been the last week in April of 2016. They gave me a loaner car, and they told me that give it to them for a few days, let them see what they can figure out what's going on. So originally they were just going to they pulled the engine apart. They called me up and they said they're just going to replace the tensioner on the timing chains. There's 2 of them. So they went ahead and did that, put the engine back together, and they were still having an issue. The timing chain was not tightening properly. Fast forward a few days, still waiting for the vehicle. They had to order CVTs on both cams for the exhaust. That they found out that the CVTs were not returning to their normal operating position after the vehicle was shut off. So while those parts were on order, they went ahead and they ordered new timing chain guides and chains as well. And they went ahead and they ordered another new tensioners as well. And I was informed that these are hydraulic tensioners. As the engine builds up pressure with oil pressure, it actually tightens the chain. So fast forward, they had it roughly 4 weeks. Got the car back, no noise on startup, no issues, nothing. About 2-3 days later, I started developing a misfire again, and still no noise from the timing chain, but I was still developing quite the issue with the misfire. Took it back to them. They confirmed that there was a misfire on cylinder number 6. They tore apart the engine, confirmed that timing marks and everything were all lined up. Everything was back the way it was. They pulled the coils, they pulled the plugs, everything looked good. They put all that together. When I got it back, I drove it to work. My daily commute is 23 miles each way. Got here and I could smell oil leaking or burning on the exhaust. Opened up the hood and there's oil all over the front of the engine. So I called Hyundai customer tow line and had it towed back to the dealer. They had found that they had left some bolts loose on the actual valve covers and on the intake. So got the car back the following day, driving it to work, and had a huge major misfire. I will post that video up. I'll post that video after I post this one. It was a horrible misfire. Sat and brought it in my shop here, let it run for an hour at idle, shut the car off, tried restarting it, and it would not go away. So I drove back to the dealer, and of course by the time I drove back to the dealer, which is roughly 27 miles away, the problem went away. So they kept it for about a week, and they were starting it up every day. They were running it. They were checking different conditions. They were checking outside temperature versus inside. They were running it hot and running cold and going through the whole process. And they could not replicate the problem at all. So got the vehicle back after that, and no more than 2 days after having it back, started developing the misfire again. And by this time we're into, late May, the first week in June. By that time we had started having some really hot temperatures, and turned on the air conditioner and there was no air condition. Well, drove back to the dealer. Apparently they forgot to recharge the system after they had the whole engine apart. So I went ahead and told them that we're still having the misfire issues. They kept it for another 3 days. Well, finally the Hyundai rep contacted me and told me that they believed that it was the fuel I was using and that I wasn't using the proper fuel. I had told them that I had saved all my receipts for all my fuel in the center console, and I only run 91 and 93 octane in it, even though it only requires 87. So he didn't believe me, and I went and I proved to him that there was in there, and that, you know, the last receipt was 93 octane, and it was no ethanol blend or anything. So they just kept giving me the runaround basically the last month or so about the misfire. So I just been kind of dealing with it the last month or so, and out of the blue, my service guy calls me up. They bring the car in and they want to do a complete fuel system treatment again. So went ahead and did that. Didn't really seem to solve any problems, but I was glad they stepped up and they were willing to take their initiative and go on with it and, you know, try to correct the problem for me. So they had it for a couple of days, and they called me up and they said they weren't getting any more misfire numbers or anything like that. So that would have been probably the end of June. So I went almost the entire month of July without any issues. I didn't really drive it much. I was on vacation for a couple weeks, so the car just sat in the garage and was not being driven. Started the car up when I got back from vacation, and automatically, right off the get-go, I noticed the timing chain was making noise. And I thought, well, maybe it's just because it sat for so long. So I didn't really push at that issue any. So last Friday night, I was driving home from work. I drive roughly 6 miles of in-town driving, and roughly 17 of the miles are interstate driving. Well, I pulled on the interstate and got up to speed, not getting into the throttle too hard or anything, but I got on the interstate, merged in with traffic, and about halfway through the trip, I'd say maybe 10 miles down the road, my oil light started flashing. So I pulled off the side of the road, popped the hood, pulled the dipstick. It's full of oil. I didn't see any smoke, didn't see anything, so continued on down the road, and oil light started flashing again. Well, then it stayed on steady. So I pulled off the interstate, pulled the dipstick. There's still full of oil, and I said, well, it's all under warranty. I'm not worried about it. I'm just gonna see. I'll just drive it home. I don't see oil leaking anywhere. The engine's not making any noise. So if I was running dry and oil, it would have definitely been noticeable right away. So went ahead and continued on home, and got within a block of the house, and I noticed some smoke coming out underneath the hood, and rolled down the window, and the engine wasn't making any noise. Sounded normal. So I pulled in the driveway, and I looked behind me, and there was a nice long oil trail, and there was oil spewing out of the engine. So had it towed back out to the dealership, and they called me Saturday morning. They said that they would not be able to look at it until at least Monday afternoon. So they called me Monday, which was yesterday, and they told me that it was the oil pressure sending unit had blown out of the actual block. So apparently it's a common issue on the Santa Fe's, but not a common issue on these. Or he told me it was the Santa Fe's. So went and picked up the car yesterday, and so far everything seems okay right now, but I've had a lot of issues with it as far as build quality of it. I think the build quality is excellent. My only concern is the reliability issue of the engine. Transmission shifts flawlessly. Like I said, the air conditioning works great. It's got a great stereo in it. It's more comfortable than, you know, my last two Lexus vehicles that I've owned. It's definitely been a great car, except for the issues that I've had with it as far as the timing chain and the CVTs and the misfire, and the last one now is the oil pressure sending unit. So I'm not sure how much longer I'm going to hang on to the car. I thought I was going to get a little more reliability out of it. Luckily, everything's been all covered under warranty, but I just think Hyundai's got a ways to go before they're going to be up there along with Honda, Toyota, Lexus, Acura as far as quality. But overall, it's been a great car. I really can't complain about it too much. The only thing that I really don't like about it are the tires. The stock hand-cooked tires that come with it, they ride horrible. Forget about trying to drive it in the snow. So I'm debating on whether I'm going to sell the car the way it is, or if I'm going to keep tires on it and drive it a little bit longer. I don't know if I really want to put out another $1,000 on tires, even though I'm still looking at probably getting rid of it. So but I've tried driving it once in the snow, and I just that was just a big mistake. So I'll just leave the video off from here, and I just kind of want to tell a little bit of my story. Not a whole lot of people have any videos out there on the Azeras or any issues they've had with them. I think a lot of people are just trading them in. I know right now the two local dealerships, they've got 3 or 4 used ones sitting on the lot. So I don't know if that's telling me something or not, but they've still got a couple 16s sitting on the lot, brand new, and they've got like $16,000 off on them. So I don't know if that's telling me something there or not, but overall, it's a great car. It's comfortable. It gets really good gas mileage. That I can't complain about. All day long, I get 20, 22 in town. And if I get on the interstate and I keep my foot out of it, I can get 32, 33 miles a gallon all day long. And that's with me, the wife, and the kids in the car, and run the air condition and running at 70 to 75 miles an hour. So overall, it hasn't been a bad car, but I think that they've got some more reliability issues they need to kind of work on, and a little more time to be spending on the engineering their engines a little better. But I think for the most part, styling, the interior, the way everything is wearing, the paint, I think it's really held up really well for, at one point a $37,000 car. So now I have noticed that they don't hold their value for too long, because right now I just checked Blue Book on this and it's already down to 17.5 with 54,000 miles. So it's really depreciated quite a bit, considering my wife's Lexus is 12 years old and hers is still Blue Books for well over 20. So, and we've got over 108, 109,000 miles on that vehicle. So it kind of goes with the name, I guess. Hyundai, I guess maybe if it was a Genesis, it may hold its value a little better. But if you got any questions or anything about the Azera, any problems that I've had, shoot me a message. If not, thanks for checking out my page. I appreciate it. Thanks.